Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Mount and Blade Bannerlord. Today we're going to be doing a guide on formations and battle tactics. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to try and be doing a kind of like a new series of guides, but basically showing the best tactics and the best formations to use to counter a certain culture or a certain faction. Now keeping in theme with the playthrough that we're going with, because it's the easiest for me to explain because you've seen a lot of how I do it already. We're going to be starting off with the Khuzaits. Now I'm going to be using a force of about 140 men. I'm going to kind of fluctuate between numbers. I'll try and make it as realistic for you guys as possible, so I'll go with lower numbers like 80 to around 140, but I won't do anything ridiculous like a force of 200 because I know a lot of you won't have that kind of force when you need this information. But what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and keep roughly a balanced mixture of men. So my heavy focus is going to be on having lots of infantry and lots of archers to kind of simulate what it would be like being earlier on in the game. So in terms of cavalry, there's going to be about 40, 20 of each, so not too many. There's not going to be a massive focus of them. So my force is about half 50 infantry, 50 archers of varying quality. Now I can do all sorts of cultures, so I can do, if you want me to, I can do like a Sturgeon versus Khuzaits and show how the tactics and formations change between the troop types. But I'm only going to do that if you guys really want it and if you guys ask for it. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of stick with a mainly Imperial force. They're going to be Imperial units with obviously a handful of mercenaries, Khuzaits and bandits, but honestly not many to make much of a difference. The main force is Imperial. Varying quality, there's barely any recruits in there, so I do have quite a few top tiers and quite a few mid tiers as well. So it's very, very different. But we're basically just going to go ahead and show you best tactics, best formations to use against the Khuzaits. Now the Khuzaits have a heavy reliance on horse archers, so this is probably one of the factions where tactics and formations makes a huge difference to how the battle plays out. And obviously every other faction has their thing, so it will make a difference, and I will cover every single one. But like I said, I'm only going to do Imperial versus the faction unless you guys want me to do a specific one. So let's go ahead and let's jump into it here. So first things first, we want to essentially get our infantry in positions, and we want to set our archers back. We want to get our archers behind our infantry because we know that the infantry is going to be taking the bulk of the enemy force. But we know because they're Khuzait troops, they're going to have a big amount of horse archers, as you can see there. And they're going to be wheeling round. Usually they come through the left. So what we want to do is we want to have our archers nice and far back with our infantry forward. So we want to split our infantry into two groups. This is the best way you can possibly take on the Khanate. And you form two squares. Depending on how many infantry you have, if you have a large amount, say between the realms of 60 to 80, you're going to want to use square formations. If you have anything less than that, you're going to want to use two circles. But essentially what you want, I've been a bit too slow here, I was not quick enough, but that's because we're on quite a small map. So what you want is you want your two infantry formations split apart with a small gap in between them and your archers behind. We just want all of our cavalry nice and far behind our archers. Unfortunately I didn't realise before I started this, my heavy cavalry, which I have a few elite cataphracts, should have been with the normal cavalry. I was just trying to keep them separate before this battle started, but ideally if we had just had them together this would have been a bit quicker. So what we want is we want our horse archers on one flank and we want our cavalry on the other. Now as you can see, when you're going through the battle, your forces tend to pick a direction, and that direction is to follow the nearest enemy. In this case is the horse archers. So a lot of my men are now going to be facing towards them, and not facing towards the bulk of the enemy force, which is slowly crawling their way towards my men. So one thing that you might want to make sure you do is set a formation direction, which you can use with function 7. So you can make your men always face one direction, which is usually best for your archers. When the battle starts, especially against the Khanate, you don't need to, because a lot of the time they will just follow those horse archers round, but as the enemy footmen start to get a bit closer, that's when you really want to get them to face the enemy in front of you instead of the enemies to your sides. As you can see, the enemy formations are holding just across from us, but because we have such a heavy force of archers, we are doing a lot of damage to them before they even get here. But what the enemy infantry is now going to do is they're going to create a split in the middle of their line, and they're going to pick one of the two infantry formations that I've laid out in front of them. And the cavalry is doing the exact same thing. And as you can see, the archers behind them are absolutely annihilating the flank. So as those cavalry try to charge through my infantry, my archers are picking them off, killing either their horses or the cavalry themselves. Now as the enemy infantry splits through the middle, that again opens up their sides and their weak points, lets my archers pick them off. And then as soon as the infantry then actually attacks the formations, they begin to wrap around the square. Now that again allows my archers and my cavalry to hit them right in the backside, right where they are their weakest, and kill them off. Now as soon as one formation has finished and killed all their enemies have been killed for them, you just send them into a charge to go and relieve the other formation. Usually one formation takes more damage than the other. In this case it was our left. They took a bigger bulk of the force, but that's their job. They are there to be hit. They use their shields, they draw the archer fire instead of the rest of your men taking that fire. They block it off, and then the enemy charges into them and you just pick them off as best as possible. But this tactic, it works best with the Khuzait Khanate. Usually it kind of depends on how aggressive you want to play. The horse archers are mainly the first thing you want to get rid of. So if you have a bigger force of cavalry, you could take the fight to them. Or if you have a lot of horse archers, you could take them around and draw the enemy horse archers away and get them to follow you, and have your horse archers deal with them. But ideally what you want is for them to come forward, attack you, and you want them to target your infantry with their shields up. When they're in square formation, it means that they're protecting all flanks with shields, so you shouldn't lose any men to archer fire, and then your archers have to then go ahead and deal with them. As you can see, we're just mopping them up now, but the battle has been won. Now we'll do another one and we'll try and pick some bigger numbers. So we'll go ahead and we'll look for another army that we can attack more or less straight away and see what we can deal with. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Here we go. So we've got a force of 200 and we've lost a couple of ours, so we're slightly smaller as well. But we're going to go ahead, we're just going to jump straight in. Go into a battle. Again, they're going to have a lot more horse archers than the last battle, so the formations are going to change. But it will be the same tactic. We'll try and move a little bit quicker. We've put our cavalry in the correct formations this time,
infantry, move!
So they know what we're doing. So we're going to split our infantry up straight away. First things first. As rough as half is, obviously we have a lot less this time. We have less than 20, so their formations are going to be a lot smaller, but it still works. Now we might lose one of the formations, but that is the job of them. Now I must stress, I do have a lot of archers, and quite a few of my archers are high quality, but it doesn't matter. Massively, archers are still good no matter what rank they are. There are a lot of bad ones in here as well. Obviously I do have a fair few paladin guards, but if you have a generally split balance between archers and infantry, you should be fine. Now cavalry is only there as kind of a bonus. We don't use them massively against these guys because the Khanate is heavily cavalry focused, so our cavalry is only good for that end bit where they can pummel into the infantry and really do some damage. But the main focus against these guys is using their one advantage against them. We want to get them on foot. We want them to come to us, slow right down, and not get the benefit of their cavalry. That's what we want to take away from them. So we need to use nice, slow, well-shielded formations like this, and we need to use our archers. Archers can absolutely annihilate the horses as they come towards us, and then they can absolutely annihilate the footmen once they basically reveal their weak points by going into our infantry formations. So as you can see, our archers are picking off a lot of their horse archers already. This map is particularly good because we've got a river, meaning that as the horse archers go into it, they are slowing right down, making for quite easy targets for my archers. Now, as you can see, I'm using the direction function here to make sure that my archers are facing the enemy as they're creeping a lot closer, and that means that we're going to start targeting them pretty majorly. Now again, the enemy formations aren't overly high tiered, so they're quite weak at this point.
Infantry, charge!
Infantry's still waiting back. We'll just wait for the charge here. There we go. See, they have a lot more cavalry focus in this one compared to the last one. They have a lot more men, a lot higher quality. Like I said, it's very likely that we're going to lose one of these formations. However, we will still win the battle with very few casualties. So I try to kind of keep the best kind of formations possible, the best kind of numbers. I'm trying to simulate as close as possible what you would have. Obviously I do have a lot of archers, but even with maybe half of this force, the tactic works the same. In this case we just deal with some higher quality troops, but as you can see our right formation has more or less been defeated, but because they've drawn all the enemy in, we've sent our archers into charge as they've used up pretty much all of their ammo, and they can just go ahead and relieve the formation on the left. Now our archers charge in and hit the enemy on the flank, so they're getting a really nice spot there, and they don't lose their combat too badly at all. As you can see, the left formation's taken some major hits. They were small already, but they've managed to win there quite easily. And then the cavalry and the horse archers are just marching around and mopping up the remaining enemy forces. Now for this tactic to work absolutely the best, if you're going against an enemy that outnumbers you massively, you definitely want to have a bigger infantry force. Your archers are kind of the backbone of this tactic. Obviously I do have a lot here, but they just show you how effective they can be in the right position. So they absolutely annihilate the force, they get the majority of the kills. So you really want a nice balance between infantry and archers. Don't worry so much about horsemen when you're going against the Khuzait, because they already have that locked down. Their main units are horsemen, so you want to go in the opposite direction and you want to go for infantry and archers. Bring the fight to the ground, get them on foot, and that's how you'll get around their defensive and their offensive capabilities. So there you go, you can see their losses there. We lost 15 men dead. So even though we lost that infantry formation, we lost barely any men in total, because we absolutely destroyed their formations and their forces. So there you go. And again, most of the infantry dead. We lost a couple of horsemen, but absolutely no archers. We've kept all of them intact. So there we go, guys. So there we go. I hope this has helped. If you've got any suggestions, comments, questions, anything, any tips at all, make sure to leave them down in the comments below, or go ahead and join me on Discord. Really try and join me on there, guys. You can just message me privately or message in one of the servers there. I honestly don't mind which. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. It just helps the channel out, and you can keep up to date with all the content that comes out as well. But I hope you enjoyed this, guys. I hope it's helped. Like I said, if there's any others that you want to see, or if there's any that you need to see earlier on, just please let me know, and I'll get that out for you as soon as possible. But otherwise, guys, I'll see you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.